So the first person to be inducted tonight is a legacy nominee, is Victor Lindskog, and his son is here to represent him, Stan Lindskog. And he was an amazing person in that he never played football in high school, not a minute of it. He was a boxer. He went to California to box and ran into some people there that said, hey, would you possibly like to play football? I'm sure Stan will have a whole story about this. So please welcome to the stage, Stan Lindskog.
In the 40s, NFL players played on offense, defense, then back to offense, plus kicking and receiving. As a rugged center and linebacker, Vic Lindskog played on the Philadelphia Eagles when the Eagles won championships in 48 and 49. Lindskog was later chosen to the Eagles' half-century team. Victor J. was born in December of 1914 in Roundup, Montana. In high school, he was active in basketball, tennis, and track. Notice there is no mention of football. Graduating in 32, he worked in local coal mines before moving to Cutbank a year later to work in oil fields. Lindskog became involved in the sport of boxing in Cutbank, showed promise as a fighter. As a result, he was sent to train under highly respected boxing guru George Blake in Los Angeles. Lindskog's professional aspirations were short-lived. His last known fight came to be in June 1938. Lindskog's athletic attributes caught the eye of Ralph Reynolds, a Stanford University alumni. The rest is history. He moved to Palo Alto with his wife and son Stan on the way. Coach Clark Shaughnessy moved the 200-pounder to center. The T formation was innovative at the time and required the center to snap the football in what we call the shotgun formation today. After 2 All-American years at Stanford, he played in the East-West Shrine Game. The NFL Philadelphia Eagles drafted Vic in December 1942. In the fall of 44, Lindskog was a 29-year-old rookie playing center and linebacker. After the 51 championship, Lindskog retired as an All-Pro. Many contribute the great success of legendary Chuck Bednarik to Lindskog's tutelage. Lindskog stayed in professional football as a coach and scout, receiving 2 Super Bowl rings in San Francisco, retiring in '85. Victor Lindskog died in Bedford, Texas in 2003 at age 88.
You know, Vic was born up in Roundup and never saw football. He was a sophomore in high school at 6 feet and 140 pounds. String bean. He didn't like what he saw in the mirror, so he sent away mail order and got a Charles Atlas isometric exercise regime because he couldn't afford equipment. And isometrics, you don't need equipment. And he graduated high school at 6'1.5" and 190 pounds, and it was just a wedge, just pure muscle. So there was no economy in Roundup, so he moved up to Cutbank, and 3 wonderful things happened. A, he got a job that paid money. B, he got involved in American Legion athletics, basketball, baseball, and most importantly, boxing. And the third great thing that happened was he met my mom. And for me, that was a good thing. So he became an amateur boxer and won 18 out of 19 fights. And family oral history has it that he became the Western Region Heavyweight Golden Gloves boxing champ, which brought him to the attention of an oil consortium in Cutbank that funded him to go to Santa Ana to box under George Blake and become the Great White Hope to beat Joe Louis. Now that's something. And so he went there with my mom, and he realized that he was hamstrung because he only had a high school education. So he went to Santa Ana JC and he said, I want to go to school. And it's one of those magical Ronald Reagan moments. He's talking to the lady at admissions and asked, how much is it going to cost? And she told him, and he slumped and he said, I can't afford that. And at that moment, the head football coach at Santa Ana was walking by, and here's his 200-pound wedge, all slumped over because he can't be a student. And he says, puts his arm around Vic's shoulder and says, son, have you ever heard about the game of football? Well, coming out of Roundup and Cutbank, no. So we'll come into the office and let's talk. And he did, and came out with a scholarship. So that started his football career. Linebacker on defense, blocking back on offense. Did a really good job and got the attention of Stanford University. They sent a big boy down and said, Vic, you don't want to be a fighter, get your lights punched out, end up your life just being a rummy, hanging out around gyms because that's all you can remember. But Stanford, we're going to introduce the T formation with a man in motion. It's going to revolutionize football. You're going to you're going to fit perfectly. So he did. He went up there. And he was the first ever college-trained T formation center ever to be drafted into the NFL. And he played for the Eagles for 8 years, 5 years both ways. And the last 3 years offense, because they brought in some rookie by the name of Chuck Bednarik to be linebacker. And from there, he got drafted by the Eagles, played there, and then he coached the line for 3 years. And then they fired the coaching staff, so he got sent up to Vancouver, British Columbia, and coached for a new team up there, the BC Lions. And then I graduated high school, went down to Stanford, played football. Vic came down to finish his master's degree in PE. And the first time I ever put on the Stanford varsity uniform, I kicked off for the varsity against the alums. And as I got ready to kick the ball, I looked across, and the middle man of the receiving team's front five. Who else? My daddy. Well, we took out after each other as if we were going to break each other apart. Happily, at the last instant, each of us broke right. And that was good for me because I didn't leave body parts on the ground. And he was 44. 4 years later, he's 48, and we're both playing for the alums. And he's snapping, and I'm punting. So that was a really tender moment. So after this, he goes into the NFL to coach some more, 8 years for the Rams. And then he became a coach, he became a scout for the last 26 years of his 45 years in the NFL. And that's my story for my dad. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dan.